On Tech Today this week, we have the Realme Pad Mini. We're going to unbox this and review this and tell you whether this budget tablet is truly a bang for your buck. And the team at Tech Today is also gearing up for the big Apple WWDC event. All that and a lot more on this special episode of Tech Today. The Realme Pad Mini looks like a device which a lot of us in India can own. It's targeted at the 10 to 15,000 rupees segment. There's not a lot of products over there. Samsung and Xiaomi have gone and tried to compete straight with the Apple iPad range, and I guess this is in a league of its own, which is a lot more accessible, affordable. But the question that I'm asking is this, well, the ideal travel companion? And if not, then what is the ideal travel companion? Well, let's find out. For those of you who tune into the show regularly, you know for the last couple of weeks, we've taken the show on the road. We've been all over the UK. You saw the Dyson exclusive. You also saw all the things that we were doing in London with MG and the like. Well, at that time, this was the device that I took along with me, of course, with my daily driver, which was the iPad Air M1. Now that is the ideal device. In fact, I can safely say that that's a device that you can actually take and perhaps replace your MacBook or your Windows computer. I've done that. And I think within the Apple ecosystem, there is nothing better for me. It pairs seamlessly with the AirPods. It does a fantastic job with the Magic Keyboard. It is fast, it's powerful. The only little shortcoming with that is actually twofold. The first one is the fact that iPadOS hasn't really caught up with macOS, but I think Apple does that intentionally. And the second thing with that device is something that happened to me on a domestic flight. Then I asked myself the question, maybe this device is too big to be the ideal travel companion. If you're going in the Apple scheme of things, you come down to an iPad Mini with M1, very powerful, but very expensive. What if I told you for a fourth of that price, or maybe 20% of that price, Android has an option, and it comes in the form of a Realme Pad Mini. Between 10 to 15,000 rupees, 8.7 inches, slightly bigger than an iPad Mini, or shall I say, slightly different aspect ratio from an iPad Mini. Well, this device seems to be the right size, the right fit, it's easy to handle, it's easy to pocket, but how does it travel? That's when we did a deep dive in actually understanding what its specs are like. So for instance, when we were flying with the Realme Pad Mini, it was quite easy to hold it with one hand, watch a lot of content. I think that was quite a bonus with this device because it's big enough to watch content and it's much bigger than a phone, but it's smaller than bigger tablets or 13-inch MacBooks or laptops. So I think that's a sweet spot in terms of size. But that's where all the compliments stop, because when you go in for an entry-level tablet, you're going in for an LCD display. And in 2022, especially on an Android tablet, when Android's trying to catch up and looking at what Samsung's doing with all their display prowess, then you ask yourself the question that an LCD display pales in comparison. So my recommendation, my advice in this space is that if this device had maybe an OLED panel, it would be great for battery, and it would be fantastic for content consumption. That said, I paired this up with my Samsung Buds, and I've used it on a bunch of flights, long haul, short haul flights. The display is all right, the sound is okay. It doesn't really lag if you are using an OTT streaming service. You can download your movies and it's great. Now I looked at this form factor and I saw the size as an 8.7-inch display. And yes, it's an LCD, maybe not the ideal, well, content consumption device when it comes to video or even audio. But then again, there's a device called an Amazon Kindle, and I see a lot of people who like to read books on the go, and even I do at times. But then often I use my iPad or other devices to actually read those books because I don't understand why I need to carry a separate tablet only to read a book. And that's when this one seems like an interesting proposition. Now, you're not going to buy this only as an e-reader, but that is an additional service which works really well with this form factor. You can hold it in one hand, you can switch pages with one hand, you could continue eating your meals and still use this. So again, the form factor and size really works to its advantage, and I think that is a great use case for the Realme Pad Mini. Now, when you're talking about this sort of a device, it reminds you of those Samsung phablets or that weird era that we went through. And yes, it comes in that size or form factor as well. It comes with an 8 megapixel rear camera, I think a 5 megapixel selfie camera, But then again, when you're in this price bracket and you're dealing with a budget tablet, I don't think a camera should matter to you because you have your phone with you. This is for another use case. Now, when we were traveling with it all over London, yes, there are scratches that have come on the surface. So maybe if you're purchasing this, buy a stand or a cover, which also helps to actually watch this, because on flights, we've had a tough time placing it in weird places. But I think it's been an ideal travel companion, even at cafes. Sometimes when you want to just do some quick navigation, you don't want to use your phone, you're stopping in the middle of shoots, and all of a sudden, well, you have your phone, which is on charge in that cafe, and then you have this to do, well, content consumption, navigation, stuff like that. It really worked. The battery was also decent. We got more than a day on it, especially for our type of usage. And I did a bunch of video calls as well. Games, I don't think you should be playing on this because this is not hardware which really supports it. I think it comes in a 4 gig version. We had the LTE version, which is on the top end, which is, I think, 15,000 rupees. You do have the cheapest version, which is Wi-Fi only, which actually comes for 10,000 rupees. And that's where I'm really squaring in, because at that price point, in this budget space, it is all right. If you need a tablet for gaming, well, then skip it. You should consider other options in the space. If you're looking at a tablet which is for basic home use, or for something for your kids, or just basic work and checking your emails, reading a Kindle, watching basic videos, not relying on in-flight entertainment which the airlines give you, then this is a great companion to start, well, your tablet journey. If you're into something way more advanced and you have money to spare, of course, this can come nowhere close to an iPad mini with M1, but that's not really an apples to apples comparison. So in this space, if you have just 10,000 to 15,000 rupees to spare, I repeat, this is a great place to start. Well, it's that time of the year again. Apple's WWDC is here. This is a developers conference and there's all sorts of software announcements each and every year. They really set the tone for what you're going to get, maybe in the big September event, the fall event, when the new iPhones come about. But I heard from a little birdie that there's going to be a hardware surprise as well. Is it just a rumor? Well, let's find out.
Again, that's right, Ayush. Apple has announced its developer conference, WWDC, which will begin on the 6th of June, where it's expected to announce the iOS 16, the macOS 13, and a lot more for its iPhone, its iPad, Watch, and even the MacBook. In fact, this is one of the most awaited events for Apple enthusiasts, as it now determines how Apple's ecosystem is developing in the year to come. Now, there are sure to be some surprises in store for users, developers, and also tech geeks. If we go by past events, Apple's CEO, Tim Cook, will kick off the keynote address on the 6th of June. And this event will, of course, be live streamed online for you to watch. And now, from what we know, Apple will most certainly be introducing the iOS 16 at WWDC, which is the next iteration of their operating system, which will power the iPhone. So if you're really waiting to buy an iPhone 14 later this year, this would certainly give you a sneak peek on whether or not to wait for it or whether it's worth buying at all. If rumors are to be believed, then we could certainly expect also some upgrades to the Apple Health app and a new approach to the iPhone notification as well. From what we hear, we could also possibly see the introduction of a buy now, pay later scheme, a feature that will also be rolled out. And it goes without saying here that these changes will also apply to the iPad OS. And of course, we could also get to see some upgrades there to the Apple Watch, most certainly. And another key highlight is the announcement of macOS 13. Apple has been announcing a new macOS every year, as we know, since 2012. And speaking of Macs, Team Tech Today is fairly certain that a MacBook Air with M2 could be announced soon. It was due to the launch earlier this year, and of course, this becomes a mega platform and an event that might be the right place for them to make that announcement. Stay tuned to Tech Today for more on that. On the Apple VR headset, there is a slim chance of Apple showcasing its rumored VR/AR headset at WWDC. In fact, we've known for long now that they've been working hard on this one, and it does show up in their line of developer code this year. But maybe they'll also save it for a separate event later this year. More importantly, I'm sure that our team will be looking forward to the sleek production of the Apple event broadcast, as they do each year. And that wraps up what Team Tech Today believes will be a mega mid-year Apple event coming to you June 6th onwards.
Well, trust Nabila to get all the right news and rumors on Tech Today. Thanks so much for that update, Nabila. And for all of y'all who are expecting a few hardware surprises, let me tell you something. I'm going to leave you with this when we go into a commercial break. There is going to be a big Tech Today surprise when we're talking about this big event. Well, for that, you'll have to wait and find out and come back on the other side of this commercial break. 3 Mbps, 4 Mbps, really bad speed. Oh, you guys are back. Welcome back to Tech Today. I'm your host Ayush Alavadi. Now, sometimes you get frustrated with very slow internet speeds. You could be on a 3G network, 4G network. A couple of weeks ago, we were in London and we were talking about 5G networks, which have, well, ultra low latency and ultra high speeds. But sometimes you get frustrated when you have to make that Zoom call, or maybe do a FaceTime call, or do something like an upload on WeTransfer. And that is when slow internet speeds can really bog you down. So Shivan, my colleague, well, he has a tech hack on your phone. By actually doing what he tells you, well, maybe you can bump up your speed on the same device with the same connection. Have a look.
We got some amazing feedback from the tech hack that we shared with you earlier. We've got you another tech hack this time, which has another secret code attached to it. The amazing part about this one is everybody can use it, because this is relating to your internet speed, which you get on your phone. This code will help you increase the internet speed on your phone. So, we all face this issue of having alternating 4G internet connectivity speeds. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. What do you do in that case? So there is this code which will help you increase the internet speed. But before we apply the code, it is important to understand that the code works, that we do a quick speed test to find out what speeds you're getting right now before we use the code. So to do that, you just need to simply go to your phone's browser, and there are many websites which will help you tell what speed you're getting at the moment. So initially, when we check the speed, we're getting something between 1.7. Now that the initial speed has been set, now we'll apply the code. Now, what you do, simply just go to your phone's calls app, and over here you need to punch in *#* 4636 #*#*. You don't need to dial anything. Immediately it will take you to the testing page. Over here you get phone information. Scroll down and you'll see this row SMSC. Over here you get two options, update and refresh. Go to update, wait for a few seconds and then refresh it. Now the way to do it is, after this, just quickly you need to shut down the phone and then restart it. After the phone comes on, now do the speed test once again. Again, you go to your phone's browser, and when you go to the phone's browser, use the same website that you used earlier to check the speed and have a look at the speed once again now. Stand at the same place where you were standing earlier and check the speed. So you see the speed has already jumped by several points, and we're currently at 12:13. Let's see where it finally stops. There you go. So from 1.7 we've jumped to 10 Mbps, and we tried this on many other devices as well. So there is an instant bump of about 3 to 4 Mbps of speed. So we tried this on several phones, and we found that no matter what speeds they were getting, even if they were getting good speeds earlier, they got even better later. If it was bad speed, that also got better. So the code will help increase the speed. There are two things to keep in mind as far as this code is concerned. Number one, it only works on Android phones. You can't really use this one on iPhones. And secondly, the speed will be increased for a limited period of time. It's not going to just go on and on and on. It's going to be limited to probably an hour at the most. So I know people have been asking us for more and more tech hacks. We'll keep this segment going. And if you need to know something in specific, please let us know. Write into us as well. We'll be back with more tech tricks and hacks from our pockets on the next Tech Today show.
The BMW i4 electric sedan. Now, BMW claims this is sheer driving pleasure, like other BMWs, with a tech angle, because this is still an EV. Well, we want to test that claim on Tech Today. All right, getting in the car is not that much of a task, though someone of my height, if the sunroof is actually pulled all the way to the front, will find it a little difficult. Of course, you can adjust the seat. This was adjusted for the previous driver, but I think it feels just like a mid-size sedan. You know, the first thing, as soon as you sit in this car, if you're a tech geek, you're going to look at this panel. And this is where all the magic happens. And of course, in terms of user experience, you got to like swipe and see what it feels like. Honestly, after the Tesla, this is the first time, and well, kudos to the German engineering with this car, that I am enjoying a touchscreen panel. The Mercedes does a good job as well, but on Tech Today, we want to be happy with the Audi, especially the one that we got on the electric experience. I'm going to take it out for a little bit of a spin just to see what driving pleasure is all about, right? Is it truly driving pleasure? Well, let's find out. Also, fast charging. You can go to BMW dealerships and charge this beast. But how many such dealerships are there in Mumbai and Delhi? Maybe 4 or 5. What is their partnership like? Towards the end of IMG Drive, MG actually announced that they're going to be tying up with a bunch of petrol stations and stuff like that. We went to so many Indian oil stations where they have these Tata charging booths and stuff like that. So many of them were out of order. So many of them had long waiting queues. Look, that range anxiety exists. But if this car claims 591 kilometers, I'm guessing when we take this out into the real world, if it gives you even anything between 400 to 450, anywhere closer towards 500, this is no mean feat when it comes to EV technology. All right, the minute you put this in reverse, you can see that this is like an OLED display on a fantastic TV. The camera is amazing, gives you, well, an eerily sharp image just like the Tesla did. And the minute you put it back in drive, then of course you get the front camera. This has 360 cameras all throughout. There's a reversing assistant, of course, and it gives you this nice 3D mapping sort of an image as well, which we saw on the MG ZS EV, but it looked like we were playing a Nintendo game from 1995. This looks like a step into the future. Well, I'm going to put the car in park right now, and while I take it out for a drive, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this car. And something that they've been talking about a lot is that it's the longest range you will get on an EV in India. They're claiming 591 kilometers on a full charge. If this car claims 591 kilometers, I'm guessing when we take this out into the real world, if it gives you even anything between 400 to 450, anywhere closer towards 500, this is no mean feat when it comes to EV technology. When you're at the back, you know that this is incredibly comfortable, and hence you can confirm that this is a sedan. It's a mid-size electric sedan, and like I was saying, BMW says sheer driving pleasure. So I thought, let's sit in the back seat as well, because if this is going to be a family car, or if it's going to be a chauffeur-driven car, and I don't know why you want a chauffeur in this one, because it drives like heaven. 0 to 100 in 5.7 seconds. This one's going to be fun. In terms of leg room, there is plenty of leg room. Even if someone around 5 feet 7, 5 feet 8 is sitting in the front, I'm nearly 6 feet, and this feels like a luxury sedan. Of course, there's a little bit of a bump here, so for a third person to fit over here, that might be a little bit of a problem. Maybe a baby or a kid could sit right here, but 2 people at the back, fantastic. The BMW i4 Electric exclusively on Tech Today. This was the first look of the car. We're hoping to test the claims a little later when it comes to range, but we can promise you it is an incredibly smooth ride. If you've enjoyed this smooth show, an action-packed show, and are waiting for the surprise next week and the week to follow, well, then tell us on our social media handles. Until next week, adios.